This whole Sefer Vayikra is a very difficult one because it deals with sacrifices and related subjects. And Baruch Hashem, Chassidus reveals the inspiration and personal message for each of us. Okay, I guess we'll begin at 6:33. We'll begin. I'm just going to read to you here from this. If you don't have this book, this set, I encourage you to get it. It's been around for a long time. It's called The Medrash Says. It's 5 volumes. And it's a really good basic coverage of the weekly parshas, drawing on the Medrash and on the Gemara. I really encourage people, if you want to get a good understanding of the parsha, especially now going into Vayikra, and it's like a 5-minute read every day. If you want to just follow the parshas, you don't have to read more than 5 minutes a day. Okay. So reading from it, every morning in the Mishkan, in the Beis HaMikdash, right, a lot was cast amongst the Kohenim to determine who would fulfill the daily service of removing some ashes from the altar. This was the first mitzvah of the day. It's called Trumas Hadesha, literally scooping up with a silver spoon, scooping up a measure of ashes. I'll continue reading. It was performed immediately after the announcement by the herald of the Beis HaMikdash, who claimed daily, "Arise for the service, Kohanim, Leviim, and representatives of the community." That's how the day would begin, with the herald making that announcement. And right after that, there was a lottery. Lotteries were performed throughout the day to determine who had the merit to perform the various commandments, the various mitzvahs. This was the first. So the Kohen singled out by lot, immersed himself in the mikveh, donned the garments specified for this service. He had to wear his priestly garments, and then poured water from the kir, the laver, over his hands and feet, which is why he washed the naglavas each morning. And at the same time, there was a spout, and he put his hand in his right hand and his right foot under it, and turned on the spout, and likewise with the left hand, the left foot. And then, taking hold of a silver pan, he would ascend the altar, take a handful of ashes from it, and place them in the silver pan. He then had to carry the pan with the ashes to the east side of the ramp that led up to the altar, and deposit them on the ground in a special spot designated for this purpose. This is called Trumas Hadesha. As soon as this mitzvah of Trumas Hadesha, taking the handful of ashes, had been completed, all the Kohanim who were on duty that day, after having poured water from the kir over their hands and feet, hurried up to the top of the mizbeach, to the altar, to clear it of the remaining ashes of the sacrifices of the previous day and night. They piled them up in the center of the altar into a heap known as a tapuach, which literally means an apple. This accumulation of ashes served as an ornament for the mizbeach, for the altar, by drawing attention to the fact that a large number of sacrifices had been offered. Now, getting now to our discussion this morning. Whenever the center heap grew excessively large, so you needed space on the top of the mizbeach for the offerings of the day, so the surplus ashes were carried to a special place outside Yerushalayim, where they were deposited and remained protected from the wind and wild animals. Listen to all these details, we're going to explain it all spiritually. Carrying the excess ashes to the outskirts of Yerushalayim was not considered actually part of the Avodah. Nevertheless, it could be performed only by a qualified Kohen who had no blemish in his lineage, or physically for that matter. Not, for example, by a Kohen with a physical blemish who could not serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, when bringing the excess ashes, so this was done per need, not always. After they piled the ashes in the center and made this tapuach, which was an ornament, as we just explained, if there was too much, so then, as per need, this was taken to the outskirts of Yerushalayim by a Kohen. Now, when bringing the excess ashes to the outskirts of Yerushalayim, the Kohen wore priestly garments, bigdei kahuna, that were less distinguished than those worn for the rest of the service. As we'll see soon in the quote from Rashi, it was considered improper to discard the ashes in the garments worn for the service inside the Mishkan. Quote, which from our sages, which we're going to see in a minute, it's not proper for a servant to pour wine for his master in the very same garments he wore while cooking the meal for his master. Okay, that's what we are now going to look at. So I sent you the text. We're going to look at Rashi's commentary. This was a little bit of the background. And let's begin our journey. You see it there? I sent it to you. Yes, let me get it up. Well, Friday 6:30. Okay. So we'll look at the Hebrew there. And the translation you can see just below. And the Kohen should put on his linen tunic, and his linen trousers, al psarei on him, and this is the first mitzvah done every day, worn in the ordinary clothes. The specific ordinary, I mean to say the special clothes of a Kohen. And then he should lift up, we said a handful. We explained how he put it into the silver container. And he should lift the ashes which the fire had consumed of the oila. The oila is referring specifically to the final korban brought the night before, the final second daily offering brought on behalf of all Klal Yisrael. But it's also all of the ashes that were on the Mizbeach from the previous days and previous nights korbanos. The Soma Itzel Mizbeach, and he places it, as we explained, on the east side of the ramp, and that's where he placed it. There was a time when the miracle would occur that it got swallowed up in the ground. This took place in the Mishkan and in the first Beis HaMikdash. These miracles no longer occurred in the second Beis HaMikdash, so eventually they were removed. Now that's called Trumas Hadesha. Then the Torah continues in pasuk number 4. Prashat es begodav, he should remove his garments. V'lavash begodim acherim, and put on other garments. V'haiti es hadeshem mechutz lamachna makom toyer. He should remove the ashes altogether, as we said, outside Yerushalayim to a pure place where it was guarded and watched. And this was done as per need when there was too much ash and needed room on the Mizbeach. Let's look at Rashi. I'll say it in the Hebrew and translate. This was not an obligation to remove his garments. The Torah is not saying you have to, but it's proper. He's going to take the ashes, he's going to get dirty, so he shouldn't dirty as he takes out the ashes his garments with which he serves Hashem with. Now, just by the way, where does Rashi get this? It's not an obligation. The Torah says a Prashat has begodav, v'lash begodim acherim. Just by the way, hear my question. Rashi said this is not an obligation, but it's the proper conduct. But the Torah commands it. Right here in this verse. So the Rabban explains that if this was a commandment, So when the Torah first commanded all the things that are needed for the Mishkan, and including the clothing, there should have been a tzivui commandment for these lesser begodim for the purpose of what? Of removing the ashes. The fact that it wasn't commanded as these are the things you need to have means it's not an actual commandment, but it's a proper thing to do. See, the Torah is just telling us what is appropriate, but as a commandment, you could use your regular clothing, but it would be improper. Now Rashi continues, Begodim shebishel behen kedei l'rabbi, clothing that a servant cooked for his master, al yimzig behen kois rabbi, shouldn't be wearing the same clothing when he pours wine for his master. And therefore, that's the reason, lakach v'lavash begodim acherim chusimem, he should put on clothing that are less valuable. It would mean worn out, older clothing of a Kohen, etc. Now, what do we have here? So Rashi is giving us two reasons why to change clothing. What are the two reasons? Shouldn't get dirty. And the second reason is that it's not proper to have to wear the same clothing that you cooked for your master in the kitchen to clothing that you're pouring wine at his table. Now, our question today is, very nice, beautiful. Rashi is giving two reasons, but Rashi's mandate is not to give explanations for commandments. Rashi's mandate is to just explain what the Torah is saying. So why does Rashi have to give not one reason, but two reasons? Right, question, it's clear? So to begin our answer, we could suggest like this. We can understand why Rashi has to give the reason for the first reason, that they shouldn't get dirty. Why? Because look at what the verse says. The verse says he should remove his clothes and put on new clothing. The pastor could have just said he should put on new clothing. If you're putting on new clothing, you have to remove the old ones. So the fact that the Torah says you shall remove the clothing, the Torah is pointing to, there's something about the garments, there's something the Torah is pointing to and telling us in this commandment that stressing, we don't want the garments to get dirty. The ones that you're wearing, it's not so much put on new ones. The emphasis is more take off the old ones. Why take off the old ones? Because you don't want to get them dirty. So that explains why the first reason. Why he has to give this the first reason. But why does he have to give a second reason about the example of cooking food and pouring? In other words, the first reason addresses a din in the clothing. And the second one addresses a din in the avodah, not the clothing. When you do the avodah, it's two different avodas. There's avodah in the kitchen, there's avodah in serving the wine. That should not be done with the same clothing. But we're just simply left now with, why does Rashi give these explanations? Okay, the first one, yes, because it explains why the Torah has to say, remove the clothing. But why do we need a second reason? Why do we need a second reason? So the answer, dear friends, is very simple. The Torah is concerned, clearly you should remove your clothing because you don't want to get them dirty. But wait a second. When he lifts the ashes, even that small amount, chances are he's going to get dirty then too. Not just taking the ashes outside. And if we're concerned about clothes being soiled, and when you shecht a behemoth, which they shechted, and all the things, and bringing the blood to the altar, their clothes are not going to get soiled. If that's the concern, that's a question that's obvious. The Torah says, Upashat is begodov, remove them, put them other clothing, which is telling us clothing have to be clean. But there's no way in the general service and the Mishkan that the clothing are kept clean. You're dealing with slaughtering an animal and taking the hides and pouring the blood. And even just now, what we're learning right now, the very first thing the Kohen does in the morning, which is wearing his regular garments, is to lift a handful of ashes and put it inside the silver keli and then bring it down. Chances are the ashes, some of it's going to be on his clothing. So that compels Rashi to give the second explanation. What's the second explanation? The second explanation is that clothing that you wear cooking should not be clothing that you pour wine. What's the difference? So we kind of assumed cooking is cooking and pouring wine. Let's think about the mashal. Rashi, where is this done, is what Rashi is saying. Where do you cook? You cook in the kitchen, not in the presence of the master. The wine, you pour the wine for your master. And we know already that pouring wine is the culmination of the meal. The story of Yitzchak, after he ate when he blessed Yaakov, and was Rivka that brought the wine. After he ate, he drank the wine. That's the highlight of the meal, is the glass of wine that you eat, that you drink, washing down a good meal. So the point is this: if you get dirty doing that, so be it. You're serving your master. This is what you're there to do. So in the presence of the master, it's one thing. But not in the presence of the master, where you're cooking in the kitchen, and there you get dirty, it's not appropriate to bring that with you to the table. But if in the course of, and it's natural, the course of pouring the wine, in our case, all of the avodas that are done in the Mishkan, whether it's ashes or blood, in the course, and you're in the presence of the master, and it's going to happen in the course of that, you get dirty. That's not considered dirt. That's all part of what you do there. That's part of what the waiter does, and it's not considered disrespectful. It's not considered dirt. But if you're not in the presence of the master, in the kitchen, you don't want to bring those clothes with you when you pour. So too, Rashi is explaining. Here, you're taking the ashes outside Yerushalayim. This is not part of the service. It was a preparation for the service. Again, it wasn't every day you have to remove the ashes. It's per need. If there's a lot of korbanos, it's a preparation. You need it, you don't need it. And what do you do with the ashes? You take them and you put them where? Outside Yerushalayim. It's not and you're going to get naturally affected by the ashes. You're not going to bring wear those same garments now as you serve inside the Mishkan in the presence of your master. So again, Rashi, by giving us this mashal, this difference between cooking and pouring wine, he's answering why is it okay to be dirty when it comes to the daily lifting of the ash or all of the other services, because that's in the presence of your master. And that's not considered dirt. That's just a natural result of what you do. But things which are not critical, they're only preparatory. They're not done in the presence of your master, and you get sullied in, that you shouldn't wear those same clothing. Okay, so that's the explanation why Rashi had to give a second explanation, because it's obvious question. We're concerned about being dirty. You're going to be dirty anyway. No, it's a difference how. If it's part and parcel of the way you're serving the master in his presence, that's okay. You're not going to bring stuff that's done as preparation and done outside the master's presence, outside Yerushalayim. We're clear? Now, the incredible lesson. One would think that clearing the ashes to make room, why would it even need to be done by a Kohen? It's not part of the service. It's only preparatory. It's the janitorial work. It's cleaning the top of the mizbeach only as per need. It is not room to bring korbanos. So you would think that has not been done by the Kohen altogether. Yet we see, just reading the psukim, it's the same Kohen, and he's changing his clothes. The same Kohen that began the day service, lifting up the handful, is the same one. If per need, he's going to take the ashes out, but he's got to change his clothes. Somebody else, not even a Kohen. Simpler. So from here we see, what's the message over here? The message is that there's some, a person could say, he'll involve himself in mitzvahs. He'll be involved in the actual mitzvah performance. But all of the work that has to be done in preparation is necessary. You're not going to get to do the mitzvah unless all the groundwork and preparation is done. But since it's not an actual commandment, and he's not going to be rewarded for it, he's not even going to not connecting to God because it's not a commandment, let somebody else do it. Let somebody else do that. I want to be busy with holy things, mitzvahs. I don't want to be busy with preparation and preparation. For example, to build a shul. So what is he? To give me an example, what's he going to get? He'll donate for what? He's going to donate for the svarim, for the books, for the holy things that are going to be used in the shul. Because that's actual mitzvahs. You're going to give a sefer Torah, tefillin. But to pay for the digging and the groundwork and all that many steps that go before, it has to be done, I know, but let someone else do that. So the Torah says, no, the same Kohen that is involved in the actual service is the same Kohen that's involved, if necessary, in the preparation. The Gemara tells, I wanted to look it up to get all the details, but an incredible story illustrates this of Rabbi. The Gemara praises the sage Rabbi. How great was Rabbi? What's the praise that the Gemara gives? Look what this man did. And he saved. The Gemara credits him for saving Yiddishkeit by ensuring that the children were educated. And what did he do? Good morning, Subis. How great was this sage up here? He himself planted flax in order to make the nets and made the nets. And with the nets, he trapped the deer. With the deer, he made the parchments. With the parchments, he made the chumashim. With the chumash, he made 5 of them. And with these 5, he taught 5 children. These 5 children taught other children. He did everything himself. It wasn't like he only did the last thing, teach the kids. He himself was involved in all of the pre stages. And this is what the Torah is hinting. If I'm out for my merit, I want to do the holy stuff I want to do, which I'm going to be rewarded for, I'm commanded to, I connect to Hashem to, then I'm in. But all the preparatory stuff let somebody else do. That's if it's about me. But if it's ultimately about what does Hashem want, Hashem's will, then there's no distinction. There's no distinction. This is what needs to be done, even if it's not a bona fide actual mitzvah. It's only so many steps removed. He does it with the same enthusiasm because it isn't about his reward and not about his piety, not about his connection, but about what Hashem wills. Self is put aside. He does it with the same enthusiasm. That's the first lesson. The same Kohen. And another lesson related to that is like this. When dealing with your fellow Jew. So a person could say, yeah, you have to be makar of your fellow Jew or obligated to Avas Yisrael. But I'll only deal with a fellow Jew who's in the Mishkan, he's ready to learn Torah with him, ready to learn Torah with him. He's here. He's Lifnei Rabbi. And he's interested, I'll learn with him. But if he's outside and going out there, I'm going to get dirty. I'm wasting my time. I'm not going to deal with the subjects and conversation that I would rather be dealing with Malish Torah. And here I'm going to deal with simple things that are not my world. Let somebody else do that. They would sometimes be makar of this person who was on the peripheral, and when he's ready and brought closer in, and he's ready to be engaged in actual learning, and makar, fine, I will give of my time and learn with him Torah because Avos Yisrael. But he puts a limit on his Avos. I'm not going out there. I'm not going to the outskirts of Yerushalayim and carrying all this ashes, and I have to change my garments. What does it mean change garments? Garments refer to language, levushim. I got to speak a language that is not what I would like to speak, my world, where I have my enjoyment. Not forbidden to speak forbidden things. But you have to relate to the person on his level. Let someone else do that. Bring him inside, I'll take over from there. We learn from here, no, the Zelba Kohen, the same Kohen that does the Avodah, is the same Kohen that removes his garments. Got to get down to that person's world and take him by his hand into holiness, even dealing with him on his level. The Rabbi says here that's the whole redemption. The Eibush to vatim to look to echad. The Eibush will take every Jew by the hand, mimkoimai from his place, not wait till he's coming into the Beis Hamikdash and then we'll go further. From where you are on the outskirts of Jerusalem, and there got to be lesser clothing. Chamutz begodim, the Eibishter's clothing becomes soiled. That's the message for each one of us. And that's the incredible message of the mitzvah of Haitzoi Sadeshen. It's the same Kohen. But you're going to be ready to go out there and even change your garments if necessary. Not necessary, it is necessary. I'm reminded also of a story, not a story, but something that a chassid said by Farbrengen. It's not exactly the same, but kind of similar. It is related. The chassid was a Ben Shem Tov, the famous chassid, and he said like this. He says, "Who was a chassid?" So he said like that the Tsar, I guess during wartime, they had to travel from one place to another. So they come to a river. There's no time to build a bridge. There's no time to build a bridge. So what would happen? The soldiers, one would go into the river, drown. But he's at the bottom, on him another one, another one, another one, another one, and then the Tsar can go across. So the bench said that the last one who gives up his life, he says he knows it's going to accomplish something because it's already at the top, and on him the Tsar will put his boot and walk across. And there's a word in Russian for this, what the soldiers used to do. This is like real. The chassid is the one that goes to the murky depths. This is so many stages before we're going to get to the end result. And he's not even sure, is a guy going to come after me? Maybe it's going to be for nothing. Take all this preparation and no one's going to finish it. He's ready to do it because this is what needs to be done. It's not about even achieving accomplishment. It's a preparation to preparation with complete sacrifice. Says the bench, Adasa the chassid. You don't even know what you're going to do is going to bring results. Like a b'chiyah. He was planting, and then with so many steps before he's going to get to teach the kids, he's going to get to all these steps, no guarantee, but on each step he went. And that's the message we have here from this mitzvah. Not only be involved in the world of holiness itself, but even be ready to go out there. And as we said, even with different clothing, and a preparation to a preparation, hechshem mitzvah to a hechshem mitzvah, he does that with the same enthusiasm as the actual mitzvah itself. All right, friends, somewhat clear? Have a wonderful day.